It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 433. That's right. It's Friday, the 22nd of November. Wow. Welcome to the show. It's the last show before the holiday next week. So next week, we just have some fun Vault episodes for you to watch just to avoid having to interact with other people. We got Tesla, Druids, Salt Typhoon, North Korea. What it sounds like a lineup so far. Amazon, Microsoft, Google. So pretty much everything. Josh Marpet and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/threatlocker.
All right, from the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button, or I'm going to send you a cat. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. You can just expect it. It'll be a box on your front porch. It'll have a cat in it. You have to take care of it for the next 13 to 20 years, maybe even longer. You never know. All right. Well, China went after U.S. telcos, and a new report from the United States Senate Intelligence Committee said the attacks were far more heinous than previously described. Salt Typhoon is behind this, as well as Liminal and some other groups. I've seen all kinds of stories. It basically sounds like every Chinese hacker group was involved. So they just went out and said, everybody, let's go. Time to party. We got a warehouse down here in Guangdong, and we're going to have some fun. And well, anyway, according to the Senate report, China was able to monitor conversations and texts, including those of President-elect Donald Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, the incoming people for the United States government. The initial report said that Salt Typhoon was using stolen passwords to target a system. They kind of downplayed it in that first round. They said that they targeted a system that managed wiretaps of phones and texts. So this was, of course, part of the law enforcement in the United States. You have to get a court order to wiretap someone, and Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile run that system. And so they said they used stolen passwords. So it sounded like a pretty typical thing. But that was just the tip of the Salt Typhoon. The new report says that the attackers were widespread and that they exploited aging equipment. They used phishing. They used every tactic that exists. And the chairperson of the committee said, quote, "This is far and away the most serious telecommunications hack in our history." Now, it's politicians saying that, so they say that about everything. But he said that a major provider had been compromised, not just targeted, but compromised. The attackers were not, NOT, able to listen to conversations on encrypted applications like Signal, and they were not, NOT, able to read encrypted text between something like, say, iPhone to iPhone. But they could read regular text messages between iPhone and Android phones, and they could listen to phone calls on ordinary telephone networks that basically the whole thing worked like a wiretap, except they apparently couldn't get a lot consistently. They were just getting, chunks here and there. The Chinese group was targeting communications of national security officials, politicians, political staff, and others. They probably also got me calling the vet. But the report says that multiple groups were involved and they were targeting lots of different individuals. This is pretty typical. And in the past, this type of attack from China in Australia and the United Kingdom led to the implementation of new standards for telecommunication. But in the U.S., nothing so far. Good times. Going to keep getting better, let me tell you. Yeah. Now, Okay, you know that IT was so on that same note, on that, you know that IT worker scam we keep talking about? And I've been telling you about it for like 2 years. It's the one where a guy named Todd tries to get hired as a remote worker and is really like, named something else from North Korea. Yeah. Well, there were 4 companies and in October 10 in 4 separate cases. This new report says that all 4 of those companies that were operating this were just fronts that originated in China. So these were companies that pretended to be U.S. placement services and other types of companies, including consulting companies that basically were, pushing these employees to organizations in the United States, and that these fronts were set up by China. Sentinel Labs said that this is pretty scary, quote, and that the front companies impersonated legitimate US based software and tech consulting firms. So they were actually domain spoofing or typo squatting or something. And the US government then seized 17 websites back in October that defrauded businesses and were assisting North Korean IT workers in concealing their true identities. And we saw this before. They were actually arresting some US citizens who were actually fronting this. There was a guy like in Nashville, Tennessee, who was receiving the laptops that were being shipped and then, signing for them, hi, yes, Todd received his laptop, and then shipping them on to North Korea. So, when the companies tried to beat it that way, no before got popped with this. So, I mean, basically, this story reiterates your need to vet. And I don't mean, look at the about page or even a company that appears to be based in Kensington, North Carolina or whatever, and is offering you staff. I mean, if you advertise a remote job, well, I mean, how do you know if it's me applying? Am I real? Am I actually me? You know, I don't know. It's kind of scary. And it's scary the other way too, because so many job ads now are fake. So they're just trying to get you to send them information and so forth. So, I mean, it may get back to that old, go down to HR and present your credentials before they, even let you interview. And, in person, I mean, even if you're doing remote jobs, you may have to get to the point where you actually have to meet the person in person. I mean, every job I ever applied for, I applied for a job at the University of Hawaii once because I thought, well, they'll fly me over there because they're not going to interview somebody remotely. They didn't. It was an online interview. I was like, what? Come on. I thought you're going to fly me to Hawaii, and they're like, oh, we can't afford that. I'm like, oh, really? You can't afford to fly somebody in for an interview? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take this job. But I mean, it's currently possible to have workers you've never seen, met, had any involvement with. I mean, is Willie Loman really a sad sack from Brooklyn? Is Shelley Levine really at a bar in Chicago? I think you may want to seriously think about some kind of serious vetting for remote employees and monitoring, even apart from just calling references. I love that. I always thought that was hysterical that they ask you to list references. You ask me, we need 3 references that can attest to your character. And I give you Richard Roma, Biff Loman, and Moses Prey. Yeah, if you look those up, if you don't get that. But I mean, you call each one of them, and each one of them is a different cell phone duct taped to the dash of my car with their first name and Sharpie on a piece of tape. That I've really seen that. Yeah, I can't tell you any details, but I've seen that, and like the phones had the names on them, so you could pick it up, go, "Hi, this is Mark." But I mean, it really it wasn't a job interview; it was something else. But I mean, every one of those people's like, Doug, here's the cat's pajamas. I'd hire him again in a second. I'm like, wow. Like, I mean, so is that it? That was your whole vetting? Yeah, I think the Chinese can manage to get around that somehow. They'll just hire a bunch of people in the US and go, sure, this is Mark. Absolutely. Oh my God, he's worked for me for 5 years. He's an amazing employee. We were so sad to see him go. Yeah. Okay. Think about it. On that same note, then, how about using AI for job interviews? So this is apparently a thing now. I mean, we knew AIs were reading your resume and deciding whether you should actually get seen, but now they're actually looking at conducting job interviews. I mean, there's no way that could go wrong, right? Well, in this study, it was mock interviews. So mock interviews were being conducted for software engineering jobs, and they prepared all these resumes, and they had all the they all the usual scientific methodology for doing this, and they were evaluating recent AI models against older AI models. So like ChatGPT 3.5 versus ChatGPT 4.0, and the AIs evaluated the candidates, and guess what they found? Now, immediately I was going, oh, these things are going to be racist as hell. Well, guess what? The new AIs, they rated men in particular, men with Anglo-Saxon names, worse. What is an Anglo-Saxon name? So this is like guys named Elfgar and Sineverd and Duda. Elfgar, come on over. It's time for the Anglo-Saxon party. I don't know. What is an Anglo-Saxon accent? I know what they mean. So Celeste de Nedai conducted this as an undergraduate thesis project in Stockholm and was trying to see if the current LLMs demonstrated bias in gender data with names that allowed some sort of cultural reference. And I mean, humans do this, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into it and get in all kinds of trouble, but I mean, that humans are racist from all perspectives. They look at a name, they make a determination, they have an opinion about that. I mean, when you see a candidate named Hunberth, you have a kind of feeling about that, right? You know, like Hunberth might be a druid, might just kill all the dragons that live near the office or something, might do some human sacrifice. It's a possible. But I mean, the study came about due to, well, AI being pretty bad with the biases, right? I mean, it's pretty racist, especially if you let your AI talk to Twitter or anything like that. But I mean, the basic hypothesis was that men with Western names would be favored, as in, say, the previous 2,000 years or so of history. But that wasn't what happened. It was actually biased against these names in the AI interviews. Denadai said that even though she can't prove it, she thinks that in the attempt to correct past biases, it may have swung too much the other way. So, I mean, humans are biased as hell in all sorts of ways. So it's not totally shocking that AI developed by humans is biased too. So all these things are still new. So my point here was, be careful out there, because when poor Sigavard applies for that Rust coding job, don't miss out on a great employee who, yeah, maybe around solstice they take a few days off and they might occasionally sacrifice a few Norsemen to the Wicker Man, but it's a small price to pay. And and you get an employee named Sigavard, which is a cool name. I'm going to change mine. Amazon Music, and Audible, which is the Amazon-based book reading service. If you want Amazon to read your books to you, as which is actually useful if you're in the car or something. And it's also their podcasting service. So that's how they stream audio. But they've apparently been flooded with listings that advertise Forex trading. Now, this story started off with me just reading the story, and it got weird. Oh, you wait. So it advertised Forex trading sites, Telegram channels, and links which offer pirated software, like Wares sites. Now, I honestly did not know what Forex trading was. I didn't. I actually thought Forex was a brand of condoms, and I'm pretty sure it used to be a brand of condoms. I think there was a brand called Forex condoms a long time ago, like say in the 70s, 80s kind of thing. I might be wrong, but I was what I was thinking. So this is why it got weird. This is where I was thinking. So I immediately Googled Forex condoms, and I got something very, very interesting. I'm not kidding. This was the strangest thing that happened to me in a while. In my search results, a site called forex.academy popped up, and the ad headline said, "The benefits of using Forex condoms for safe trading." I'm not making this up. And I was like, what? Where did this silly site come from? Was it thrown together by AI on the fly to get me to go to the site? I was freaking out. It was crazy. So, and I still don't know. So I went to the site. I got, my sandbox, and I went straight to forex.academy/the-benefits-of-using-forex-condoms-for-safe-trading. And it was a website. And every single step about foreign exchange trading, which of course is what Forex actually means in modern slang. I just didn't know that slang term. I know what foreign exchange trading is, but I'd never heard it called Forex. But it had 7 steps for Forex trading. Every single step referred to Forex condoms in some way. I was like, what the hell? And I mean, you can go to that website. I mean, I didn't see any malware or anything. I went there in a sandbox, but I went there, and every single point on that website had the term Forex condom or Forex condoms in the trading advice. I'm not kidding. The article that it was showing me was dated 2023, and there was a whole site underneath this with all kinds of strange stories, domains, and so forth. Creepy. But on Amazon, there are all these playlist names, podcasts, and bogus podcast episodes urging listeners to tune into things that link to wares sites and such. They also had spam casts that were being embedded in normal podcasts. There was an ad on Amazon Music that says download Bookmap 7.3.0 final full crack, which is, code for don't download this. And I mean, it's like if you've ever gone to a Wares site because you really, really, really wanted to get a copy of that Antares harmonizer that you don't want to pay $10,000 for. Yeah, Wares, full of Russian malware, Chinese malware, general malware. It's a good way to collect malware, though, if you ever want to collect malware. In fact, when I was collecting malware, that was exactly how I got it. There were ads for bot trading software that were also then links to Wares and podcasts with durations of 0 seconds. And when you click to them, they took you to Wares sites. A common mention on the Amazon site was this term elite market movers, which was in association with some kind of trading platform. The site, which apparently is down now, had offerings. In fact, I'm going to go back later and see if that forex.academy site is still there or if it has evaporated. But basically they were offering you things like top forex robots and all this kind of stuff. So my point with this story before it degenerated into like total Lovecraftian scares was you might want to think about writing some documents for your people about how this kind of stuff is out there and it's starting to proliferate even in like normal sites. I don't know what the point of all this was. I have a funny feeling it's either phishing or malware, but I don't know what the deal with Forex.Academy is, but it was very strange. It was a surreal morning, and I was like freaking out about this. My wife actually was like, "Are you okay down there?" Because I was like going, "What the hell?" And she thought the cats had done something, which is usually when I'm yelling, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Not there, kitty, no." Yeah, you know that if you have a cat. Well, allegedly, Microsoft is going to roll out a quick machine recovery tool that would allow you to use the Windows Update targeted fixes to remotely fix systems rendered unbootable. Ever flown across the world to reboot something that was in a locked server closet and they just didn't trust anybody local to clear it or to go in there? I have. It was cool. I asked for first class. I got it. But you also probably drove all the way to that site in Erie, Pennsylvania in the middle of the night to boot something as well as, when it hung up. Or I remember the old 3 a.m. when they had a power glitch and one of my servers would always hang on the BIOS boot screen. And I had a bunch of websites on there. And there was a couple of people that ran these websites that like apparently did not sleep. And they were always watching them and hitting the refresh key to see if they went down. And they would call me at 3 a.m. Yeah, I tried to rig up something to like hit the space bar, like one of those drinking birds or something, but I never could quite get it to work. I was trying like, some like actuators and all kinds of weird things. And I always ended up having to just schlep down there and turn it back on. Well, the CrowdStrike Falcon update back in July, as you're probably familiar, caused hundreds of thousands of Windows devices to be unbootable, which basically shut down a lot of stuff. And the machines were either in a boot loop or they were stuck on a blue screen of death after the sensor update was installed. Now, that's a lot of interns, right? When you start dispatching people and saying, "No, you're paying your own cab fare to go fix it. You're an intern. You'd be happy we don't just have you beat to death or something." But anyway, the quick machine recovery feature apparently will not require hands-on access to fix boot issues. Apparently, you can somehow push out targeted fixes from Windows Update on PCs even when the machines are unable to boot without needing physical access to the PC. I'm pretty skeptical. I mean, how the hell would that work? Like, it's not booting? I mean, how does it get these instructions? So is Microsoft going to advocate that they put some kind of like software on the BIOS and you're going to open your BIOS up to the internet? And then, I'm going to have to see how this works before I say much more about it. They said it would roll out to the Insider Program community members in early 2025, so I'm sure we'll see a lot about it once it does. But it seems like it would have to have some kind of low-level access, like, kernel-level stuff. And that sounds almost as terrifying as that AI screenshot capture they keep postponing releasing. Yeah, I may hold off on that one for a bit. Google's fuzzing tool is called OSS Fuzz, and it's now enhanced with AI capabilities. What is it? But this is a good AI story. The AI-enabled tool found 26 new vulnerabilities in open source projects, including a flaw in OpenSSL that's been there for years, apparently. So OSS Fuzz has been around to test open source projects since 2016, if you needed to do such things, and you probably should. But they added LLMS to it, in 2023, which allows the tool to develop fuzz targets, which is a tough part of fuzzing in general. The added improvements led to an increase in coverage for projects being covered by the tool. I mean, we can't get too negative about AI because, I mean, LLMs aren't all bad. And when they can be applied to tedious things like this and, uncover issues we might not ever have found until somebody bad found them, maybe this is a way to reduce threat surface of products in general. And I mean, AI doesn't eat, it doesn't sleep, it doesn't take a break to play Fortnite or decide to just hitchhike to Mexico and leave a note on the server rack that says, Doug, I hope you die. I mean, so who knows? It could be a big improvement. So you can check it out if you're working in that area, and you may well need to be. Water Barguest. Is that Anglo-Saxon? I'm not sure. It's a strange term. But apparently they sell, this is part of the new criminal world. They sell hijacked IoT devices and SOHO routers and are basically an organized cybercrime group. They basically use known 0 days to compromise. They had used this to compromise 20,000 SOHO routers and other IoT devices, and then they sell them on residential proxy marketplaces for state-sponsored groups and cyber espionage and other attackers to buy and use. So they're a market niche. Like somebody went to business school. I mean, you need spy gear? We make it. Poison gas pin? Got it. Watch with a garrote? All available down at Vinny's All-You-Can-Spy warehouse. So once Water Barguest finds these things and compromises the devices, they have a whole automated process for doing this. They said they can compromise one and install NGIO web, or however you say it, to the device within 10 minutes. And then they put it up for sale. And that lets the device register as a proxy, which means it sits in your network in between your network and their servers, and you don't know about it. It's like basically a botnet. It's a business model. The devices can then be used to create geolocated source addresses and compromise networks, meaning they can bounce stuff off you to make it look like those guys are really there. Kind of like when you had that old rotary phone with a robotic arm and an acoustic coupler in an apartment in Queens that you could call from Venezuela and relay the call to look like you were actually not violating your probation. Yeah, that kind of thing. Trend Micro found all this and reported the operation, and they said that edge router devices were being used by Sandworm, our Russian friends, probably China as well, because, hey, why make it when you can just buy it? And apparently that they've been doing a lot of compromises. So look, SOHO devices are notorious, so protect them, even at home, but especially if you're using them in your enterprise. Put them on the private VLAN, please. Then these guys can't do much. Well, I had a whole introduction written for somebody else, but I'll just say our guest today is cool. It's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here for the third time today. I don't even know.
You lose track after a while.
Well, what are you going to do? But all right, so I've got a really cool article here. It's from Dark Reading, and I'm really excited to talk about this because it's something we've talked about a lot. And this is why does China have such an incredible cybersecurity sort of scene in terms of being so prevalent on the hacking front, from ransomware to 0 days to they've just got it all. And there's a really good reason for that. This article ties it together. They have a military-civil fusion capability is what they call it. In other words, there's the military, there's the academics, there's the private cybersecurity firms, and they're all pulling together. So effectively, you've got all of the hacking groups that are under their nation state and military control. You've got all of the academics who are working with the Chinese government, and you've got all of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies that are, some of them are very specialized. There's even publicly listed companies you can trade the stock of that are specifically building APT strategies and operationalizing them and throwing them out there and seeing what comes back, or targeting you. So it's not just that the government is paying for everything, and the government there does do a lot of paying for stuff, but everybody pulls together. They have the entire country, every part of it that they want, working on actual hacking. So they're taking from everybody else because they have the capability of oh, we need somebody that's specialized in this, and they go, let's see who's on our list. Oh, there's an entire company that does that, whatever it is. It's AI, it's quantum computing, it's web application pen testing, it's whatever it is. They've got somebody or some company that does it, and they're like, come on over here, you're going to attack this company. Boom, let's get to work. And they do it. Here we have NDAs, we have ethical, legal, financial boundaries that we don't want to push. If you're a pen tester and the government says, "Hey, we'd like you to hack other countries," okay, but we've got to talk about how that impacts my entire future. In China, it's just sure, sounds good. Let's get to it. That's in one sense impressively cool, and another sense absolutely terrifying. That they pull together like this, and it's got people quoted in here from Anomaly, Trey Ford from Bug Crowd. You've got all of the different reports. Volt Typhoon. You've got okay. So it basically talks about the military and nation state cyber defense capabilities of the PLA, the Army, Ministry of State Security, Ministry of Public Security, Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. But there are hundreds of private firms that are linked to that, and all of their top universities, including 8 of the C9 of China's top 9 public universities, are engaged in state-sponsored cyber offense research, and sometimes they even help the operatives do all sorts of stuff. So, okay, this is terrifying. As a U.S. citizen, on a personal note, this is absolutely terrifying that China is able to tap so many different firms, so many different areas, so many different people. And it's terrifying that they're able to do it effectively, trivially. Whereas here in the US, if the government wants to work with a company, well, do we want, they've got to get them clearanced and this and that and the other thing. And that's if they want to do the work in the first place. And while the Department of Defense does have a lot of contracts, a lot of universities for various research efforts, they don't typically go, hey, you want to go hack somebody? Let's go. Come on. It just simply doesn't work that way. So are we behind? Or are we ahead of them in ethics, but behind in technology? Or maybe there's a trolley problem in there somewhere. I'm not sure. But this is an issue that we need to work on to determine if we are actually up to par in terms of defense, and also with things like quantum decryption in terms of research. And I don't know what the answer is. This is a really tough one. So I'm going to let this alone, but I'd really love to hear from anybody that watches or listens to this episode. Tell me what you think. Should we be doing similar things, or should we keep going the way we're going? Kind of curious what you have to say. So thank you, and I hope you respond. Doug?
Hey, I'm all for mad science. I'm like, I was talking to somebody earlier about how they learned to cure cholera, and I'm like, the guy that found like this cure was absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
And he was injecting cholera patients with just random things like coal oil and kerosene and stuff like that, and because they were going to die anyway. And he finally injected somebody with seawater. I'm like, okay, you're pretty out there when you're just like saying, I got a needle, I got some liquids, let's see what happens. Oh, another one dead. Died horribly painfully. So, there's something to be said for mad science, but there's also a lot of scary things. And China is very good at just saying, go for it. Like we'll do it, and that they're ahead. I assure you they're ahead. They have spent a lot of time getting people massively trained and encouraging them to come back to China so they could work there and providing them with everything they could. So, I don't know. It is an interesting situation to be in. So we'll see, won't we? Thanks, Josh. Teslas were involved in more fatal accidents than any other vehicle, according to the IC Cars report, which was using stats from the most ungodly named thing, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's Fatality Analysis Reporting System. Did that spell something? Niche? No, it doesn't even spell anything. Wow. Talk about having to spend a lot of money on your signs and stuff. Like, can you imagine your letterhead is like, you have to add pages just to put the name of the, yeah, it's the government. Well, Tesla was followed by Kia, Buick, Dodge, and Hyundai. But look, I was immediately thinking this, but they qualified it. As I read further in an article, they said that maybe it's not the car, it might be the driver. I mean, you and I all know somebody with a Tesla, right? And how many times have you been in a Tesla and the driver said, "Hey, want to try out insanity mode or whatever it's called? Let's turn on insanity mode and autopilot. And what does this button marked blender do? Push it, man, push it." Yeah, I mean, you've been in that car, or maybe you have that car. Maybe you're the one pushing the blender button. But another report from Epic VIN in August said that of all car brands, Tesla drivers were least likely to suffer fatal injuries. So what does it mean? Well, it means that Tesla drivers were involved in a lot of fatal crashes, but they weren't the fatality. So I guess that's something you can put in your ads, like Tesla, far safer and more dangerous. But hey, you know, when you take chances, you won't die. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But Lending Tree said that Tesla drivers had the highest crash rate of any brand in a study from November of 2022 to 2023. And a report in 2022 also said that Tesla's accounted for 70% of car crashes that involve driver assist systems, which again, it's not that surprising because they're the ones with driver assist features, right? I mean, how many cars actually have a button you can push that says, "Take me home, Jeeves"? I mean, Teslas do, and I knew people that were doing that, even though it was illegal, which also goes right back to that first part, right? Because I knew people that were going, "Yeah, it's illegal here. You know, we're here in Massachusetts, you out there in Nevada, you can just go crazy, but not here in the nanny state. Let's try it. I'm going to push this button that says drive me. I'm drunk." I'm like, okay, yeah, no way that goes wrong. Reports indicating that the autopilot in Teslas had a critical safety gap were also published. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think AI is to blame as much as an opportunity for drivers to just say, "Who wants to try rip it mode? Everybody do a shot, and then I'm going to push this button. I don't even know what it does, but I hacked the system and removed all the safety controls. Let's party." Everybody down with that? Yeah. I mean, we've all been in that car, right? Of course, I'll tell you, I've been in that car before where there was any of this stuff. And the guy was just going, "I'm doing shots of tequila out of this bottle of whiskey that's between my legs. And we're going to go 120 miles an hour in this 1971 Buick Riviera." Yeah. And we didn't die, but we could have. Although it was a Buick Riviera, you could have driven it to a brick wall. It would have been fine. All right. That is the last news show for until a week from after Thanksgiving. So we're happy you were here. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. If you're elsewhere, well, tough. We will have some nice vault shows for you. I will next be live at the Millennium Alliance event on the 27th, 28th, 29th of January in Dallas, Texas at the Fairmont. If you want to go to that event, go to their website and sign up. It's free. You can come. We can buy each other free drinks. It'll be fun. See ya.